Y'all planning for this?
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Shalansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer. And today we are going to be diving into goal setting and goal planning and goal tracking. And all three of those are elementally important because most financial advisors that I talk to in every single stage of their career treat their goals like a wish. And what that means is if you write down a goal and you say, for example, I want to be making $1 million by the end of the year in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and I want to have 200 households that I work with and have a 50% profitability. And then they just tack it up on a wall, put it on a screen share, do something with that little wish that they've created, and they haven't created a plan. A goal without a plan is a wish. A little louder for the people in the back. A goal without a plan is a wish. You have to take the time and the effort and the energy to put down specifically what your goals are and the big goals, right? The big moonshot goals, the one that make you super, super uncomfortable, and then start backing into it and developing a plan on how you're going to go achieve those. If you've attended any business coaching classes, we do a lot of these in October, November timeframe, mostly because we know what our goals are going to be for the next 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10 years, but we really want to sharpen those with business professionals. We want somebody to hold our feet to the fire and say, okay, great. Everyone in the world wishes they could make $1 million. How are you going to actually do it? What are the steps involved to get you to where you want to be? And can you achieve that? Now, if you're listening to this amount and you're thinking, oh, $1 million, well, I'd be really happy if I was just making $250,000, or I can't even imagine what my life would be at 500. I use $1 million as a round mark because a lot of people put that out there as their eventual goal of where they want to get to. And all walks of industries, not just financial advisors, right? I mean, you talk to real estate professionals, mortgage lenders, attorneys, doctors, everyone's like, I'd really like to be making $1 million a year. What does $1 million a year mean to you, right? So whenever somebody says this to me, the second I'm thinking about is, do you want $1 million net or do you want $1 million gross? Because if you work with high income professionals, $1 million on paper is not $1 million in the bank. It's not the same thing. So I look at that professional and I say, okay, you want to be earning about $1 million. I'm going to mentally carve out 40%, and I'm just rounding up 38% highest tax. Don't know if there's self-employment, all these other things that go inside of it. So if I allocate 40% over to taxes, then I've mentally got that check marked, and I know that we're going to be doing good on our quarterly tax savings. So I take this $1 million and I carve out 40%. Now you have $600,000. All right, with $600,000, what does your life look like? What would you be doing with $600,000 of average revenue every single year? That's $50,000 a month. And a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh my gosh, if I had $50,000, that's private jet level, right? And they really want to take that money and be intentional with it. But financial planners are the worst about hiring other financial planners to help them build a financial plan that sustains wealth, plans for their own retirement, and reduce as many taxes as possible along the way. We're just terrible at it. It's the same reason that doctors make terrible patients. We all know better, right? We know what we should be doing. We just do not take time to put ourselves on our own surge schedule, to sit down with our own significant other spouses and really go through all of the financial planning. And how many times have you sat down with your children, as long as they are over the age of 10, and talked to them about your estate, about your financial plan, about your transitioning? All right, probably very few of you have, right? These aren't conversations. I want to impart a piece of advice really quickly. And if you listen to nothing else in this podcast, listen to this. Financial lessons are caught, not taught. Financial lessons are caught, not taught. What does that mean? I could hand my kids every single book about money management in the entire world and have them do weekly reports on what they learned. And I would oversee all of their financial advice as they sat down and began. When my son got his very first job, he started a lawn mowing service. We sat down, I carved out taxes. He had to pay taxes, not to the IRS, to the bank of mom, but that's okay. But he needed to learn that that is part of what happens. The more money you earn, we have a progressive tax system, you got to pay taxes. He had to tithe, he had to save. And then what he had remaining, he had to either reinvest into his lawn business or he took as a profitable distribution to him as the owner. He needed to learn those fundamentals. And it wasn't just because I threw a book at him, it's because I sat down and did this with him, right? Every time he got a job, we'd sit down, we'd go over it, line item, old school, not on a computer, not on a spreadsheet. I wanted him writing it on paper and keeping an old school ledger. Why? Because how do we learn as individuals? We learn from seeing, hearing, and doing. And a lot of times when we do things electronically, and I'm guilty of this too, it gets electronically filed and forgotten. So it was really important to me to reinforce those very, very fundamental basics with him and doing that. When's the last time you did this? When I sat down and do goal setting, I do the very same thing. I write it down on a piece of paper before I ever bring it into the computer, because once it's in the computer, I'm just kind of disassociated with it, right? Like it's still going to drive everything I do, because everything that we do as financial professionals, most part of it is either sitting in front of a client or being behind a computer screen, right? I'm not talking Zoom meetings. I'm building out spreadsheets, doing plans. And even when we're playing Office, which we're all guilty of doing, it's behind a screen. So I want to go back to those basics of writing it down, saying it aloud, and putting it up for everyone to see. And because financial lessons are caught and not taught, you have to walk the walk. That's what this means, right? So even though I could give my kid every single economics book on the planet and have him get a master's degree in finance, it would not matter. His spending financial habits will come from how he caught those lessons of watching me and the other trusted adults in his life spend money. Now, the way that we do things in the United States of America, we have very nucleus families, which means that we have generally mom, and mom, dad, and kid, right? And then we raise those families. We don't have the multi-generational households living under one roof unless something catastrophic has happened to us, right? And so the lessons that children are learning are from those immediate adults in the household. They're not going to be from the aunts and uncles. They're not going to be from the grandparents. There's too much disassociation with that. And I could go on forever about how important this is because my son is living proof that financial lessons are caught and not taught. And you have to and think about you right now. Most financial professionals, you come from one of two camps. You're either one, you grew up in this industry, much like myself and Micah Shalansky, and that this is something we're super passionate about doing because we saw our parents radically transform lives of average Americans, and we absolutely loved it. Like contagious, loved it, had to do it, live, eat, and breathe it, right? And then second of all, a lot of financial professionals enter this industry like my father because they knew how much poverty sucked. Right? That's the reality of it. They know what it is like to be broke. They know what it is like to be poor. They didn't know everything that they wanted to know about money, but they knew that they would not be poor the rest of their lives. They were going to do everything they could to honestly, ethically earn more money so that they didn't raise their family the same way that they were raised. And you may relate to that. Most financial professionals I talk to, it is one or the other. They got in this business because they grew up watching it and loved it, or they got in this business because they didn't want to be broke. So because financial lessons are caught and not taught, your kids, those young adults in your life will look at you and start to learn how you are disciplined about money. So really reflect and ask yourself, how disciplined about being financially independent are you? Do you hire a financial planner, somebody outside of your practice, somebody that you're not embarrassed with? And do you get your spouse involved in this, right? Do you sit down and have those hard conversations? Because if you are like many people that I talk to, two people in a household do not always agree financially on how money should be spent. So are you doing the dirty work? We laugh oftentimes as financial advisors. We have clients say, sorry, I know you didn't sign up to be marriage counselor. And really, so many of our conversations with clients are about marriage strain around money, right? And the value of money, because they too are coming into this relationship with their own perspective about how they caught financial lessons, not how they're being taught financial lessons. And the same thing is true with goal setting, right? We all have this mythical idea of what we want to do, but we don't take any action to really align ourselves with peer groups and coaches to help us get us where we want to be. And I'm going to liken this to physical fitness, right? 6 words, and I will tell you the health secrets of all times that have worked for all genders, all races, all countries across the planet. Ready? Burn more calories than you eat. That's it, right? That is the secret to being physically fit. You got to burn more calories than you eat. But is it really that simple? Is it really something that we get up every day and say, okay, you know what? I just, had a cup of coffee. That's 130 calories. That means I got to go walk around the block for 12 minutes. No, we're not doing that debit and credit every single day, right? But if you're really committed to something, if you are going to do a triathlon for the very first time, a marathon for the very first time, if you're going to compete in a CrossFitting championship, whether it's, the regular or the RX division, it doesn't matter. If you have some type of goal, you will now become unintentionally, subconsciously more deliberate about the steps that you are taking to achieve that victory at the end. So you can't just sit there and say, I can't wait to make $1 million. That doesn't mean anything, right? And $1 million might not be $1 million. And I can quickly spend your $1 million down when we talk about taxes, retirement planning, tax sheltering, philanthropy, and I can get you really, really close to where you're like, wow, $1 million really feels more like $250,000. So our goals can be big, they can be audacious, they can be just so uncomfortable, and they have to be, because if you sit down and set a goal and you quickly map out how you're going to get there and you're going to go, yeah, you know what, I could do that, that's no problem. That goal's not big enough. That is not challenging. That is not pushing you as your creator has made you to achieve a level of greatness that only you are capable of achieving. Your goals must scare you. You must look at the list and say, my God, that's a lot of work. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but let's start. Okay, so where should we start as financial advisors? I'm going to talk to just practice goals today, and you can take this formula that I have and you can apply it to anything that you want to do. When I sit down with businesses and myself and my fellow business owners, we sit down and we do goal planning. And when we do that goal planning, what we start with is top line revenue, right? So we call this GDC. If you are from a broker-dealer world, you know that means gross dealer concessions. And so this is how much money did you earn? Not before or after. I'm going to talk to the grid here a little bit, right? So if you work in an enterprise office, if you're working with a BD, any of those type of environments, you know that the money that is debited out of the client's account is not necessarily what ends up in your account, right? It has to go through the grid, kind of get filtered with all these fees, etc. All right. So we look at that, just that top line revenue. Don't overly complicate this, right? So what are those gross dealer concessions? What money was debited from a client's account, right? If you're using AUM, assets under management, as your example, and put that big number down, right? What do you want your total gross dealer concessions to be? GDC. What is that top line revenue? Okay. All right. And then if you're building out a table, if you're drawing a box on your piece of paper, the next line should say, what does that money mean to you, right? So after all of the things that you have to pay for being in business, what is the revenue that you want as the financial advisor to hit your bank account, right? What is that number? If you are wondering what a good number should be, we always strive for a 50% profitability margin in our RIA. That is our goal. That is what we want to have happen. Okay. All right. And then the next line down, so your fourth line down, is now define what that looks like, right? So how many financial advisors? Is it just you, or did you hire a paraplanner? If you need a recommendation for an awesome paraplanning company, hit me up at lifestyle@theperfectria.com. Be happy to make an introduction to Brody. He's phenomenal. He's got a great team at Outsource Financial Planning. He can do a lot of that back-end building. And the reason that you would hire Outsource Financial Planning, just to give him a little pitch, is because if you are more effective sitting in front of clients and talking and having that relationship, that's where you got to be. If you're the deal deal closer and you're the one doing the prospecting, you're the one doing the client, you're the one nursing the big deals, you got to be orally communicating with someone, and you need to trust somebody to hand off the spreadsheet work, right? Somebody put it in Money Guy Pro, somebody to put it in Holista Plan, somebody to use it in Retirement Tax Services, somebody else to be able to handle the back end logistics so you can spend more time in front of clients where it's your highest and best use, right? So a lot of solo practitioners, when they start getting really, really busy, I highly recommend that they start you looking at outsourced financial planning or a like company that can come in here and build out a lot of that data on the back end for you if that's an area that you struggle with, right? And you can hire CFPs just to go down this. I just had a staff member said, well, why would a CFP do paraplanning instead of sales? A lot of CFPs, the statistic is really, really high, don't want to go meet with clients. They love building the data, they love building the plan, but they either do not find any joy or are terrified of meeting with clients. So you can always find somebody to put in that. So if you're the only advisor, but you're going to get bogged down by all this back end work, what can you do to outsource those things, right? How many households? So the next thing I look for is once we have the establishment of how many financial advisors we have, how many households does that mean that we are going to work with? And this is really, really important to me. In fact, I'm about to have a meeting with my entire team, and one of the leading top key indicators that we track is heartbeats. And I say, how many heartbeats are we helping? Because that is what we do. We help real human beings plan for financial freedom. We cannot get so caught up in all the big, audacious goals and the pursuit of perfection that we forget the human beings that we are dealing with, the families that we are impacting for multiple generations. Super, super important. So I always want to know how many households does this mean that we are impacting? You have to continually be present in the mindset of why you got into financial planning in the first place. And it might be like what I talked about, that you as an individual just did not want to be broke the rest of your life or have your children grow up having less than you did as an individual. But then that second part of that is, and that's a whole reason that you became a financial planner, is that you didn't want that knowledge to be kept just to yourself. It was contagious. You wanted to make sure everyone in the world felt the impact that what they wanted to achieve was possible, and that money didn't have to be some big secretive mystery thing, that you could develop a financial plan that made it realistic for them to achieve. And so that is why it's so important that in every one of my KPIs, right at the very, very top, we talk about the heartbeats. How many lives are we impacting? It's so important to know. So now I've got my 4 columns set up. I've got my 4 rows of what I want to see. I'm starting with my company. What is it, right? Many of us have multiple lines, or this could be your personal life, right? So you could start with the name of your RIA and what is your business entity. Okay, great. Then move it over to what do you want to have in your personal life. And then the second line that I'm going to go through is what is the gross dealer concessions that I want? What is the total revenue, the gross revenue I want the firm or the company or myself to earn? And then I'm going to dive into my personal income, right? The next line is my personal income. So I have that GDC, but I don't get to keep all of that, right? We're always trying to solve at the perfect RA for 50% profitability. If you don't know how, then you need to schedule your coaching call with Tracy Ottinger, and she will show you exactly how to get there. But we go ahead and we have that number up there, right? Of exactly what we want to earn. All right, great. Now, in order to earn that, what does that mean? How many advisors have to be in my office? Do I have to hire a paraplanner? How many households do I have to meet with? What does the average household AUM look like? What is my average financial planning fee? I do not care how you are paid. If you are fee only or AUM only, I do not care how you are paid. How you earn your money is your business. I can give you pros and cons of both. The only thing that I hate about seeing with fee-only advisors, it is the very first thing that they put out there in the world about themselves. It is their name, their designation, and that they're fee only. I don't think we should lead with that. That's just my personal take. I don't care if that's how you charge. Lead with value. Show how you're going to transform lives, not how you're going to get paid. That is what matters to me the most. And we've made a really big thing in this industry thinking that consumers really, really care about fee only, AUM only, whatever the designation of how we're getting paid is. And that's not true. We're just telling them what they what they should care about. Because I have sat with many, many clients and they will say fee only, AUM only. And when I explain the both, and then I say, this is how I get paid, but you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, are welcome to work with anyone in the entire world. There are a lot of great financial advisors out there. There are some terrible ones, but there are more good ones than bad ones. If you want somebody that puts that on their designation first, knock yourself out. I'm value only first. And I think that if I'm providing massive value to you, then it really shouldn't matter how I'm getting paid. And they agree with that, right? Like, I'm transparent about my fees. I'm transparent about how I charge, but I'm not putting that as the very first thing about me out in the world. That's a personal soapbox. If you think that you get a ton of business because you advertise that you're fee only, AUM only, or whatever it is, right? Across the board that you charge with, or just putting your flat rate out there, I'm Sue Financial Advisor and I charge $1,000 an hour. So if your designations like to say Sue last name CFP $1,000 an hour, and that's what works for you, fantastic. But if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to put that dollar amount out there, what does it matter if you're fee only? And why is that where everyone should focus? Just food for fodder, right? Just something for you to think about. I don't care how you're paid. Think about how you're translating the most value, the most impact, and the most change to as many people as you want to inspire in this entire world to become financially free. And then put that first. Put that first. Okay. All right. And then your action items. So now we've got this great picture, right? We've got this big goal, this audacious goal, this one that makes you super uncomfortable, right? And when we started talking about this, I said, okay, everyone wants to make $1 million. Maybe you're already making $1 million and you don't know how to get to $4 million, right? You can see how to get to 2, and you think in your mind it's double the amount of work, but it's not. It's not double the amount of work to get from 1 million to 2 million, because everything it took for you to get to $1 million is now already in place. You've already learned all those lessons. You've already got all those building blocks. And now you have to sit down with the coach, sit down with somebody that's going to practice, analyze your entire setup and say, great, here's how you multiply. Here's how you quadruple. Here's how you do more, earn more without having to take on more, right? This is about effectiveness. And one of the things we do with our Invictus members, and that's a membership that we have at the Perfect RIA. So our Backstage Pass is all for do-it-yourselfers. It's for somebody that says, hey, just show me what you got and I'll figure it out myself. But Invictus is saying, hey, I want a personal trainer. I don't want just the gym membership. I want the personal trainer. Show me how to get out of my own way. Because we all know that we could burn more calories than what we consume, but we're not all in glorious fitness shape, right? And so we hire these coaches. We hire this person to come in. And Tracy Ottinger's the lead vice president of sales for the Perfect RA. And she is phenomenal. She'll take you through your practice. We're going to analyze 4 very specific areas and then show you how to quadruple based on what you feel is the top priority. And you need that. Everyone needs that. We got to get out of our own way, right? Because we put these big goals down and then all of a sudden all right, what does it take to get here? Okay, I want, $10 million in gross dealer concessions and I want $5 million of revenue, right? Super scary, big, audacious goal. All right, well, great. This means I'm going to have to work 24/7. I'm never going to see my wife. I'm never going to see my kids. I'm never going to see my husband. I'm never going to be able to see my parents, and all of these things that aren't true, right? Because you've already done most of the groundwork to get where you're at. Now you need that expert to come in and say, here's how to get there, right? You need somebody that is dispassionate and outside looking in, pushing you. It's super important in my world. Okay, so then you got to come up with your action items, right? These have to be very specific and attainable actions. I like to go one step further in my action item. I also like to assign areas of responsibility. So who is the person that takes this on? If you're a solo practitioner, there's only so much that you can do. Do you need to hire a virtual assistant? Do you need somebody to come in part-time? Do you need to look for somebody totally outsource your financial planning? Do you need to hire a phone service? Phone service, if you're a solo practitioner, write it down, Ruby Tuesday. They do an awesome job. They've done a lot of legal work. So they answer the phones for attorneys' offices. And they've taken on more and more financial advisors as we send them their way. And they've done a phenomenal job of having a real human being answer your phones and making it seem like your office is much bigger than you are. So what are those action items, right? What do you have to do in order to achieve those goals and set deadlines? Who's responsible for achieving these, and when is the deadline that it has to be done? If something is perpetual, then we're going to want regular check-ins. So now you've got this one-page business plan built out for yourself, right? You've got this goal, and it's uncomfortable and it's scary, but guess what? It's also 100% achievable. You can do this. Most individuals do not get where they want to be in life because they don't know where they want to be. In fact, when you sit down with everyone and you say, hey, do you have any goals next year? People will tell you about hobbies. They don't take the time to paint what their life is going to look like when they achieve this goal. They don't build out a plan for how do they get there. And that is why I use the analogy of the runners. Runners do a great job at this because if you have a marathon in November, your training begins in December of the previous year, right? And you don't just go and do dozens of miles at a time. You start off in different increments, and they have social groups. They have peers. They have different people of different caliber and expectations meeting up and saying, hey, listen, I'm very new to running. This is my very first marathon. Anyone interested in running 1 mile with me today at the school? Okay, great. And then they advance to 5, and then it's 10 and 15 and 20, and they keep moving themselves up. Or if they are already habitual marathon runner, they link up with groups and say, listen, this is my 3rd marathon. Anyone interested in pounding out 18 miles this weekend, right? And so what they're doing is first, they are aligning themselves with peers, people who are where they are. Really important, right? And then second of all, they are aligning themselves with individuals who are where they want to be. We had no idea when Matthew Jarvis introduced the Perfect RA forum for our Backstage Pass and Invictus members, how sensational that would be for everyone. Because all of a sudden they jumped on this forum and they started creating these different groups and said, hey, listen, I'm struggling with this. Anyone else? Can you raise your hand? Great. Can we get a conference call together? And it gave them a network of individuals that weren't just like, well, at my practice, I do blah, 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 and make up some exaggerated number. These were real financial advisors saying, hey, I'm struggling. Anyone else that wants to be transparent and help me problem solve this? And then you had just hands everywhere go up, and people were networking and aligning themselves with like individuals. But you're not just stuck in your current peer group, right? If you are just starting your practice and you're in your 20s, you are at a different level than somebody that is in their mid 50s wondering if they should continue their practice or sell it, right? And so we want to make sure that we're aligning you with mentorship to get you where you want to be as a financial advisor. So first, you got to surround yourself with peers, people that are doing what you're doing. It makes you feel good. It gives you a community. And then second of all, you got to find mentorship. You got to align yourself with people who are where you want to be, because you will rise to the occasion. You were made by a creator to rise into your fullest glory and potential. And you will do that. You will do that. You will level up, because if you weren't interested in leveling up, you wouldn't listen to the content produced in our YouTube channels and our webinars, on our membership platforms, or attend our live events. If you weren't interested in the pursuit of perfection and greatness, you wouldn't be here today, right? Because what we do, I don't care how many coaches out there that say, oh, financial advisor isn't hard. You know, laying bricks is hard. No, then you've never walked where I've walked. You've never sat with a widow and told her she didn't have enough money. You haven't sat with grieving parents at a wake because paying for rehab the first time didn't work, right? You don't know the type of work we do because you haven't walked in the shoes. What we do is hard. It's emotional. It's taxing. It leaves us awake at night wondering if we made the right decisions for all of those heartbeats that we help. And we get up every single day with renowned energy to continue to do it because we were here for a purpose. We were created to help other people as financial advisors. So does my back break because I'm laying bricks every day? No, it does not. It's just a different kind of hard. It doesn't make it less taxing. It just changes the location of that pain point. And that peer community also gives you people that will hold you accountable. They will hold you accountable to when you are failing yourself or you're slacking off on your goals. And what I love about this with other financial advisors is because we can't bluff it with each other. We can make up stuff, but in the Perfect RA, we are 100% about calling each other out, not in a bullying way, although sometimes I have a tendency to do that, but in a, you're just deceiving yourself. What are you doing, right? We want the absolute best for you. You're deceiving hurting yourself. You are delaying your goals because you can't get out of your own head trash. You can't get out of your own way, and you're not treating these serious. Because if we are serious about achieving a goal, we will make a plan. And once we have made a plan, us financial planners, there is no stopping us. We are problem solvers, we are planners, and we are achievers. We are highly ambitious and motivated by something greater than what runs in our veins. We will achieve that plan and allow no one to stop us from having it. So your peer group will call you out. They will make sure that you're holding your feet to the fire. You're not going to be able to bluff them or yourself when you're doing this. So when you have your goals, and you got to be able to show somebody this, right? Now, number one rule of goal setting, you cannot make somebody else's goals for them. So if they tell you the goal or you relay the goal to somebody else, they can't look at your goal and say, that's a terrible goal, go do X, Y, and Z. Because then that's their goals, right? I mean, if A is telling B how bad the goal is, then that isn't B's goal anymore. It's A's goal, right? And so these people can help you articulate your goal, but they cannot tell you what your goal is. And once you've decided once that goal is, now your feet are held to the fire. You got to go achieve that. And so what does that mean? You take that plan and you created these benchmarks and you have areas of responsibility and you have deadlines and you are checking in with yourself and your accountability partner to make sure that you're working towards achieving these goals. And that can't be randomly. That has to be intentionally on the map. We do this on a quarterly basis. We set up big goals that are broken down by a quarter that gets us to our larger picture. And we say, okay, great, go achieve these things. Here's where we're going to check in. And this is what we have to smash in the next 90 days. We just like quarters. That works really well for our office. It also ties into when we're doing our value adds. So it just works systematically. If you need something weekly, if you need something bi-weekly or monthly, or the only thing I would really caution you against is semi-annual or annual, because it's the number one reason resolutions fail, right? By March, we all forgot what we promised ourselves in January. So you need somebody to make sure that you're holding your feet to the fire and achieving these all of the time. All right. The Perfect RA is about the pursuit of perfection. We are a community of financial advisors and professionals that want to achieve perfection and change as many heartbeats as we possibly can. The Perfect RA offers 2 memberships. I'm mentioning this because I get asked a lot about it when people meet me. They say, listen, I'm listening to your podcast, but what else can I do? The very first thing I'm going to tell them to do is join a membership in the Perfect RA. If you are just starting out, this is a financial commitment. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, join Backstage Pass, get access to all of the Jarvis Financial and Shalansky and Associates content that we use in real life scenarios with clients. If you are serious, and I mean really serious about achieving your goals, then you join Invictus. If you're interested in how to join Invictus, then get a hold of Tracy Ottinger. She's our lead sales, and she is going to work with you on how you can join the Invictus platform. And Invictus gives you coaching. You'll also get an in-depth practice analysis to know where you're at and where you need to head in the next couple of years with actionable items that you need to go and achieve, and regular continued coaching. So the difference between the two is Backstage Pass is buying a gym membership, and Invictus is hiring a personal trainer. That's really what this is for your practice, for your lifestyle, for getting you where you want to be. And no matter if you're solo, if you're 2 people, if you're CPA that just got into financial planning, you just ripped away from a broker dealer, or your multi-enterprise office and want to know how to level up all of your financial advisors in 2023, this is how to do it. You go join these coaching programs, you get these coaching programs for your team, and you get out of their way. Watch this. This will transform. We get hundreds of comments and texts and mentions on social and emails into the office saying, I took one idea you had and I radically transformed my practice, and I've been struggling this for years. This is the information financial advisors need, because we are financial advisors. This is real life industry stuff, because we're not sitting here with some economic degree telling you how we think you should talk to clients. Instead, we are sitting there having these conversations with clients. We know what goes into providing this advice and running these offices and why we do what we do. And it's all about those heartbeats. So if you're looking for an action item, my number 1, go join the Perfect RA. And is this self-promoting? Sure, absolutely. We're transparent about that. But we really want to change lives. And the way that we can change the most amount of lives is we can teach financial advisors how to go and do that, how to deliver massive value and transform as many heartbeats as possible. So hit us up at lifestyle@theperfectra.com if you want more information on how to join our memberships. Second, you need to come up with a one-page business plan, that big, audacious goal. I want it down top line. And then what does that mean? How are you going to get there? Actionable items with deadlines attached to them and areas of responsibility. Not everything has to come down to you, but you need somebody to help you effectively organize how you're going to outsource and get different people involved in the projects that you're doing in order to get you to the goals that you want to achieve. The third action item is you cannot do this alone. You cannot do this alone. You got to hook up with somebody. And so if it's a peer, somebody that's currently where you're at, or somebody where you want to be as a mentor, I think you need two levels of people. I think you need people where you're at, so that way you can go through the struggle, kind of bounce ideas off of each other and help each other grow and get to that summit together. And then I think you got to aspire to somebody else. You got to figure out who's already figured out. And maybe it's not the same industry. Maybe it's a different industry. Maybe it's Matt and Micah and I, but where do you want to go and who is already in that space, and then go figure out what they're doing and be humble about it, right? There's so much trash talking about boasting and, this is, these people think they're perfect and this person did that and, fee only versus not. You guys, stop, right? This is about the pursuit of perfection. This is about not people saying I'm better than you, but saying I want to be the best. And that should be a good aspiration. I want to be the best, not because I think you're an idiot, though there are some idiots out there, but because I think that I am capable of providing the absolute best for my clients. And this is how I am going to go and do it. So make sure you're aligning yourself with peers and then people that are where you want to be, right? That is the most radical way that you attain growth, is by leveling up around people that are already where you want to be and figuring out from a place of humility how they did it and how you can get there also. Okay, TPR Nation, this is Jamie Shalansky. This has been an episode of Worlds to Conquer. Find people who share your values. Go change the world.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father,